Marxist leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake has won Sri Lanka's presidential election in what was viewed as a widespread rejection of the old political elite who are blamed for the country's ongoing economic woes. But for the first time in Sri Lanka's history, the election went into a runoff on Sunday after no candidate managed to get more than 50% of the votes. However, after second choice votes were counted, Dissanayake was declared the winner in the evening. In fact, he said, "This victory belongs to us all." He posted this message on X. But this 55-year-old defeated the incumbent Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was installed as president back in 2022 after Gotabaya Rajapaksa was actually forced to resign and flee the country amid a popular uprising. In fact, joining us for further clarity on the matter, we have with us Sri Lankan policy analyst Rohan Samarajive. Thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Suresh Goel, who's former Indian envoy. Rohan, I'd like to begin with you. Since 2022, Sri Lanka has gone through a period of prolonged economic and political tumultuous times that we've been covering in India as well. It's left many disenchanted in your country with the parties and leaders that have dominated politics for about 2 decades. Are you now hopeful as your country starts a new chapter? Is there a mood of optimism on the streets of Colombo?
Well, the streets of Colombo are empty right now because this is a public holiday. I believe we have been optimistic since 22 and the change in regime. I believe that, to think about these kinds of events, there's value in international comparisons. I was just looking at the Greece numbers, and we have done way better than Greece did. It took them more than 10 years to recover. Our economy is now growing. Our reserves are up. Inflation is down to single digits.
Fortunately.
And so on. And debt restructuring is going on. So I think we have an interesting situation now with this government, which has serious constraints in what it can do. But it can do more on anti-corruption and things of that nature. Dr.
Goel, meanwhile, it's feared that Sri Lanka's new Marxist leader is pro-China. Take us through what this new political chapter in Sri Lanka means for the neighborhood and India specifically. What do you believe it does?
I think immediately around the time that when he was elected, Mr. Dissanayake did make it very clear that he's not going to be basically taking a pro-China policies or do anything to hurt the strategic interest of India in the neighborhood. Therefore, we do hope that as the times come by, even though we know that in his policy pronouncement, in his utterances earlier, he has shown a pro-China inclination, but we do hope that having become the president, he will be looking at the long-term interests of Sri Lanka, keep the economic prospects in mind, and carry out the policies which will actually encourage the economic stabilization in Sri Lanka. Now, I'm saying that in that context, there are 2 important things. One is maintaining a peaceful neighborhood so that it does not create any issues in terms of security, etc., or stability. And number 2, it continues to depend considerably on the restructuring through IMF. The earlier governments have seen that the restructuring of the debt has not been possible through China. China has always tried to take its own piece of cake in whatever they do. And even earlier when the IMF tried to restructure the debt, China wanted to recover its debt before anything else really. So I do hope that Mr. Dissanayake will keep all the factors in mind. Our interest basically is that Sri Lanka should not carry out any such policies which can hurt our own security interest. Remember when Rajapaksa was removed, the huge possibilities of people migrating, moving towards Indian shores from Sri Lanka. So there are the factors here which come to mind, and I'm quite confident that Mr. Dissanayake will be actually keeping everything in mind before really taking any policy positions.
Well, we are certainly hopeful he does. Rohan, Mr. Dissanayake has pledged to renegotiate a 2023 International Monetary Fund $3 billion bailout that stipulated unpopular austerity measures. But as he takes office, take us through the immediate challenges he faces. We know top of his agenda is actually addressing Sri Lanka's dire economic situation.
Well, the immediate challenge that he will face is that he does not control the legislature. He has only 3 seats in a 225-seat legislature. He has vowed to call general elections. In Sri Lanka, the power is somewhat structured differently than in India. So we expect the general elections to be held in November. And given that he has only 43% of the vote, even with a broad coalition that he put together, it is likely that it will not yield a house that has a clear majority. He will try very hard to get that clear majority. With regard to the IMF, I think there has been a little bit of overstatement. He has said he will not withdraw from the IMF. He has only talked about the DSA, the Debt Sustainability Analysis, and presenting an alternative for discussion, he emphasized. Now, given that the private creditors, ISV holders have also come in with an agreement in principle based on the IMF DSA, it is unlikely that this part of the conversation will proceed any further.
Right.
So what we see is that he is highly constrained, at least until November, when he gets a decent representation in Parliament and is able to form a cabinet to his liking. Right now, his choices are between holding all the portfolios as a caretaker or having a 3-person cabinet with his party members. So I think this is not the time that we are going to see major changes on the economic front.
Right.
There will be some giveaways in order to win the election, some concessions on some taxes and things like that that can be done through the executive rather than through
Well, we'll keep
legislation.
a close eye on all the movements in the neighborhood. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us with the latest on what's happening in Sri Lanka. We will, of course, revert you for regular updates on the ramifications of the new government there.